being energized, enthusiastic, engaged, and focused, if you have enough high quality nows in a row, eventually your future will be greater than you've ever imagined. So now it becomes a question of how can I, right? What can I do in the present moment in order to deserve that goal? These two elements of psychology, gratitude and goal orientation, are a balance. The bottom line is this, is what are you optimizing for? Are you optimizing for external success? Are you optimizing for internal success? Or are you optimizing for both? And what I'm trying to say is that welcome to another episode of the Bill Hauser podcast. Today we're going to talk about why high performance requires feeling good. Like, what do we really want out of our lives? I mean, if you really condense it down and you look at psychology research and, all these other things, it's going to ultimately come down to we want to feel good energy-wise, emotionally, physically. We want to feel good psychologically in all areas of our life, physically, psychologically, all of the above. We just want to feel good about our lives and we want to feel good in our lives, right? But what's often the biggest kind of misnomer in success is the belief that if I achieve something, then I'll be happy, right? And this puts us in a defensive state where, we're constantly justifying why we're not happy because we haven't gotten X thing yet, right? And this puts us kind of in what one of my coaches calls the gap of disappointment, where you're always a gap from where you are now and where you want to be. So you live your entire life in the gap, right? And this concept and mentality called the bonus mentality is this mentality that I have already arrived, right? I have already arrived to the present moment of my life. I've already am here. There is no gap, right? Now, I can still strive for more, but that more isn't going to define me. It's not going to fulfill me. What's going to fulfill me and what's actually going to make it more likely that I reach this distant future thing that I want to reach, right? What's going to make that more likely is that I feel good now. I feel engaged now, right? I feel alert. I feel positive. I feel enthusiastic now. And if you stack up enough now moments after another now, after another now, after another now of you being energized, enthusiastic, engaged, and focused, if you have enough high quality nows in a row, eventually your future will be greater than you've ever imagined, right? But if you live your life, waiting for the future to make you happy, the future never arrives because tomorrow, newsflash, it's going to be now when you wake up tomorrow. And there's still going to be a future tomorrow. That'll be 2 days from now, 3, 4, 5 days from now, right? So the future is a constant moving target, right? So if you put your self-worth in the future, you're never going to feel good in the now, right? So high performance requires feeling good. Feeling good is both an art and a science. The art is really the psychology side. The science is the biological side, right? And in today's day and age, if you just understand the cost of the things that take you away from feeling good, if you just understand the cost, you'll naturally stop doing the things that make you feel bad, right? So, example. I'll give you a couple examples of things of understanding the cost of the things that make you feel bad and stopping doing them, right? One thing. So, it's been 2 months since I've had one sip of alcohol, right? Now, prior to that, my routine around alcohol was I would have one old fashioned per weekend, right? So on a Friday or a Saturday night, I would have one old fashioned, right? So a little bit of whiskey and whatever the other crap they put in old fashioned. I'm not a drink maestro. And I did that for years of my life, right? And one day I woke up and I asked myself, do I want the alcohol or do I want to feel excellent 100% of the time? Now, we're talking one drink a week, so it wasn't that big of a delta of improvement. But as soon as I asked myself that question, I realize I want to feel good all the time. I don't want to just feel good for 2 hours at, one of these evening nights on weekends when I have an old fashioned, right? I want to feel good all the time. I don't just want to feel good for 2 hours, right? And the best way to do that is to remove toxins from your body. Alcohol is a toxin. Alcohol literally damages your body. It causes you to have to recover. Even if you just have one drink before sleep, if you've ever wore an Oura ring, one of those rings you wear that tracks your sleep, you will notice you get a lower sleep quality even after just having one drink before you go to sleep, right? So what's more important to me? My recovery, right? Obviously, me racing dirt bikes right now, which is extremely cardio intensive, burning an average of 6,000 exercise calories a week, racing motocross. So recovery has become a lot more important for me, right? So I have to focus on my recovery just as much as I focus on, my exercising and all the other things I'm doing, right? Okay, so that's like one thing is understanding the cost of alcohol. Do I want 2 hours of feeling good, or do I want an entire week of feeling excellent, right? Another thing, understanding the cost of distraction. Holy crap, the average American spends almost 3 hours a day on their phone, and most of that is on social media. If you add it up, right? If you spend 1 hour a day on your phone, which you don't, unless you're against the average, most of you, right? If you spend 1 hour a day on your phone, that's 7 hours a week robbed from you. 7 hours a week is almost an entire workday. Okay? That means every single week you're robbing from yourself an entire workday, right? Now, add this up. 2 hours on your phone a day is 14 hours a week. That's almost 2 work days you're robbing from yourself a week, right? Now, what's interesting is like, have you ever had like your phone and see a hand pop out of your phone, grab your face and pull your face to the phone? Have you ever seen something from the phone actually pull you in? Or is it more true that you're the one choosing to look at your phone, right? Social media doesn't care whether you look at it or not. Social media is basically a compilation of AI and pre-filmed videos, right? It doesn't care whether you look at it or not, but you do. Why? Because we don't understand the cost of distraction. We don't understand that the 1 hour I spend, distracted on my phone per day, the 2 hours I spend on my phone per day distracted, right? I don't realize that that's actually costing me 2 working days per week, okay? That's 100 working days a year, right? That is insane. You want to know the number one way to get ahead of your competition and make more money and more impact than you've ever done before? Just stop looking at your phone. Because you're going to have a competitive advantage against 99% of Americans, right? Who can't, they don't have the willpower to do that, right? Let's look at some other things. So cost of distraction. If you understand the cost of distraction, then you'll stop distracting yourself throughout the day. If you understand the cost of alcohol, you'll stop drinking alcohol, right? If the cost matters more to you than the 2 hours of benefit, right? What is the benefit of looking at social media, right? What's the benefit of distraction? You're going to get a little bit of immediate dopamine, right? If you have a choice between a really hard task or something like reflecting on your life and your life strategy, something that's like very important but not urgent, right? If you have a choice between something complex and super important versus something that's, not so important and it's going to give you immediate trigger of dopamine and entertainment, you're going to take the human brain is going to default to the entertainment thing. So it's not your fault. It's just that our human brain likes the feeling of distraction because it's immediate gratification, right? Exercise, right? Another thing. I do, this morning I did an hour straight of zone 3 cardio. I burned probably around 1,000 active calories, so 1,045 calories during my exercise this morning. Why would I do that today? Well, I make that 1 hour sacrifice, which was really hard. I'm dripping sweat, right? Because I want the payoff of that. I want a great VO2 max. I want my blood to be more oxygenated. I want my resting heart rate to lower. I want to avoid cardiovascular disease. I want to feel good throughout my day. I also want to be competitive in my sport, right? I want to be in peak performance, and that outcome, that consequence matters more to me than the consequence of 1 hour of pain and gruelingly difficult workouts, right? So if you think about that in any area of your life, where you're avoiding things is typically an area, avoiding things that are good for you is an area of your life where you haven't looked at the upside, the positive consequences of doing the hard thing, right? So, these are just some examples of you weigh the cost of doing important things now versus the cost to your life in the future if you don't do those things, right? And that can apply to, again, alcohol, fitness, nutrition. This is another really important one. Yeah, I could, eat crap and it's going to feel good in the moment, but do I want to think about eating. Eating is like the craziest return on investment thing ever, right? I could just eat something unhealthy, and how long am I going to feel good when I eat that unhealthy thing? Average time it takes you to eat a meal is what, 15 minutes? Think about how insane this trade-off is, right? I eat a big, beefy, folic acid infused pasta dish and pizza and all this stuff loaded with unhealthy carbs, right? Yeah, I'm going to feel good for 15 minutes, right? Then I'm going to not feel good for the rest of my day going into the next day, right? If I'm putting, fortified or enriched, these cancerous things that the food industry has made normal, the folic acid that they put in enriched bread and wheat and flour, it is insane. 50% of our bodies can't even digest folic acid, and most people walk around their entire lives, 50% of people to be exact, walk around their entire lives with brain fog. They have no idea why. It's because they're putting, bad stuff in their body that their body can't even digest. And the only place, when your body can't digest stuff properly, there's usually going to be some form of inflammation that leaves itself, right? Inflammation is the enemy of good energy, right? If I take an inflamed person and I take a non-inflamed person, the person who's not inflamed in their body, in their joints, in their life is going to traditionally be more happy, right? Because inflammation causes pain. Inflammation causes basically everything in your body to not function well. Now, the only trade-off is strategic inflammation. For example, let's say I go and lift heavy weights for an hour. Okay, well, my chest is going to be inflamed, but that's good self-inflicted inflammation that I inflicted strain on a joint, and inflammation also triggers a healing response if it's self-inflicted, right? If you bruise your arm, right, it's going to get inflamed, but inflammation is the body's signaling system as to a part that needs to be healed by the body, right? So more blood rushes to that area, et cetera, et cetera. But if your whole body is inflamed, like 90% of the public, right, your brain is inflamed, of course you're going to have brain fog. Of course you're not going to feel good. So one of the keys to nutrition is to eat, antioxidant type foods and anti-inflammatory foods, right? And what's really fascinating when you look at this is like the more natural, the better, right? I mean, it's like so simple. If you were to just replace, if you just ate whole foods, what are whole foods? Foods that are closer to the source, right? So I'll give you an example of what, my wife and I ate yesterday. So we had a choice between, doing food that was going to be fast food, deep fried, right? And instead, I decided to go to Whole Foods. They're, the area where they have all the food pre-prepared. And I got myself a chicken breast. I got myself fresh veggies. And I got myself fresh potatoes, right? And why did I make that choice? Well, yeah, it would have felt a lot better for me to get something fried. It would have been a little quicker, right? But I wanted the trade-off. Now, I had 2 meals in a row like that for my day yesterday. So how do you think I'm feeling today, right? I gave myself minimal excess crap in my body, so I'm feeling like a freight train today of energy, right? Because of what I ate yesterday, right? So 15 minutes of having to find my food at Whole Foods, having to package my own stuff, having to pick the healthy stuff, right? Instead of just door dashing something unhealthy, which would have been less effort for me, right? That 15 minutes of discipline caused me 48 hours of feeling light, feeling alert, feeling completely dialed in, right? So what are going to be the biggest levers on the biological side is ultimately going to be nutrition, right? It's going to be fitness, right? It's going to be hydration, it's going to be sleep, right? And it's going to be supplementation, right? So if you take all these things together, right, the person who is managing these 5 pillars right is typically going to be happier than the person who's not managing those 5 pillars right, right? There's many viewpoints that all of our thoughts are biologically caused, right? We think that thoughts are psychological, right? We think that we think things because we feel things, we have a notion about things. So some people think that thinking is fully psychological. That's not true, right? If person A has a bunch of, let's call it the stress hormones, so epinephrine, cortisol. If person A has a bunch of negative stress-inducing, chemicals going through their blood, they are going to be more likely to have negative thoughts, right? Whereas if a person has more dopamine, serotonin in their blood, right, they're probably going to have happier thoughts, right? So biological inputs create psychological outputs, right? This is why the medical system has made popular these antidepressant, anti-anxiety drugs, as the SSRIs, the serotonin reuptake inhibitor type drugs, because it messes with the brain chemistry. So the question is, by managing your nutrition plan better, can you create the same brain chemistry that prescription drugs can create? And the answer is, in most cases, yes. You actually can reintroduce the raw nutrients that your body's missing to yourself, and see raises in dopamine, serotonin, and actually feel good more often, right? So my point in sharing this is high performance requires feeling good, and high performance without feeling good is going to eventually be forced, and it's going to eventually cause burnout, right? Now, let's look at the psychological side, right? Oh, by the way, another supplement that's super important is hydrogen tablets. This is something I've recently introduced into my supplementation. I already take like 15 different supplements, and this supplement has had the biggest impact on my energy levels. And it literally just gives your body more oxygen. I mean, it's like the simplest concept ever. Like, imagine like person A puts 87 octane fuel in their car and person B puts 93 octane fuel in their car. Whose car is going to run better, all else being equal? The person with 93 level octane, right? That's the equivalent of drinking hydrogen infused water, right? Because oxygen is the ultimate fuel source for your body, right? If you are more oxygenated, like think about what did Lance Armstrong. That's a funny. I guess they don't really have anything in common. Lance Armstrong. What did Lance Armstrong do to cheat when he was in the Tour de France battle? His doping thing basically allowed him to have more oxygen in his blood. It's that simple, right? And why? Well, because that produces more elite performance, right? So look into, hydrogen tablets, molecular hydrogen. Start, testing, putting a couple tablets in your water if you want to feel better throughout the day. Gary Brecka, a biohacker, he says to take about 2 or 3 of them per day. I do 3. But all these things add up, right? If you eat the right stuff, you exercise the right amount, you stretch, you supplement yourself right, you get the right amount of sleep, and you drink, electrolyte infused water. Like all hydration is not equal. If you were to drink a gallon of distilled water throughout the day, there's a chance that you'll actually feel worse because it dilutes all the nutrients in your body when you drink, water that has nothing in it, right? Whereas if you drink electrolyte infused water with hydrogen in it, you are going to feel 10 times better, right? Because, think about what electrolytes do, right? They basically allow you to absorb more nutrients, right? And that is the ultimate goal, the ultimate hack is to not only eat the right nutrients at the right time in the right proportions, but also to make sure you're giving your body an environment to absorb those nutrients, right? And it's harder for your body to absorb both water and nutrients without electrolytes, right? So again, you want to fully optimize the biological side of your energy levels in order to feel good, right? But on the psychological side, right, this is our relationship to our thoughts. That's really what I look at as psychological. Like, if you can get both of these things right, the biological and the psychological, what you're going to notice is it's hard to feel bad. It's literally hard. Even today, I got cut off in traffic. This person in front of me had severe road rage. This person was not in a good place. But I was feeling so good driving to work this morning that I just smiled and said, man, I'm so happy I'm not that person. That was the level of effect that it had on me. I didn't have, anything drop it like a negative cortisol drop into my stomach. Ugh, I didn't tense up, right? I just said, wow, I'm so happy to not be that guy, and I just moved on with my day, right? It's hard to feel bad when your body is releasing more dopamine and serotonin than other people. It's hard when you're fully oxygenated in your blood. It's hard when you're fully hydrated with electrolytes. It's hard when you're fully nourished with whole food based nutrients, right? It's hard to feel bad, right? So psychological I look at as our relationship to our thoughts, right? This is the second kind of side of feeling good in order to perform well. So psychological, the first thing, if you look at, 1,000,001 studies on this, you're going to realize how important gratitude is to feeling good, right? If you are not grateful for anything in your life, it's harder to feel good, right? It's just way harder. If you are grateful for everything that happens in your life, good or bad, because if it's bad, you understand the lesson that's packed within it. If it's good, you understand, hey, this good thing didn't have to happen to me, but it did, and therefore I am grateful for this, right? The emotion of gratitude, some say is one of the emotions that's hardest to cancel out. If you are in a state of extreme gratitude, it's actually hard for any other emotion in the human body to gobble that emotion up and overtake it, right? If you look at negative emotions as something similar to like a virus overtaking your body, right? And you have one positive thought and one negative thought, which is like a virus. Look at gratitude as your first line of immunity, right? So this virus tries taking over your feeling of gratitude, gratefulness, right? And the virus or negative thought dies and it doesn't overtake the gratitude, right? Another one that's super important is goal orientation, right? And this one is tricky because, like we said before, you can live in the gap if you don't have a good relationship with goals, right? So let's say you have these big transformational goals in your life, your fitness, your health, your finances, your business. You have these goals, and remember, all goals are stretches from where you're currently at. Now, that's the right goals. It's stupid to set a goal that's exactly where you're currently at, right? Because goals are meant to stretch from where you currently are in a certain area, right? So the tricky thing with goals is you must have them, but you also must not live in the gap, right? If you want to be happy, right? Now, there's something that someone I've interviewed multiple times, Ed Milet, says, and he says you want to be blissfully dissatisfied. I completely agree. That is the perfect balance. That's exactly what I'm saying. Blissfully dissatisfied. Blissfully to me means I am happy with the present moment. I don't have to be happy with where I am, right? But I am happy with the present moment. I am accepting of the present moment. Now, I want to get here and I'm clear on where I want to go, right? That's my goal orientation. But gosh dang, am I happy right now where I am, right? I'm happy with the present moment. And when you are blissfully dissatisfied in that state of goal orientation, the awesome thing is you're able to take more action in the here and now because you're in a positive state, right? What happens, if you ever read the book Flow, is if you freak yourself out, it actually can paralyze you from taking action, right? So if I say, if I weigh 400 pounds and I say by end of day tomorrow I weigh 100 pounds, well, obviously that's unrealistic. That's probably not going to cause me to take any action because it's not believable, right? It seems like such a stretch, seems so uncomfortable. There's no way I'm going to be able to reach this, right? So that's a stupid example, right? If I say I weigh 400 pounds, if I weigh 400 pounds now and I want to weigh 250 pounds in 4 months, okay, now that gets a little bit more reasonable, right? A little bit more believable, right? So now it becomes a question of how can I, right? What can I do in the present moment in order to deserve that goal, right? Let's use another example. I want to blow up on social media. I want 1 million followers on social media, right? You could focus on that every single day and be dissatisfied where you currently are, right? With no bliss. Just, meh, is this ever going to happen for me? Maybe social media sucks. Maybe I shouldn't do it. Or are you going to set a more, actualized target that then allows you to feel great in the present moment so you can put out a lot of content, right? So you can eventually deserve to reach that goal, right? The key, this is something they say in sports, I've said in previous podcasts, the key is to have the next play mentality, right? Better yet, the this play mentality. This play, right? We want to focus, if I'm an athlete, I want to focus on what's right in front of my feet, right? I don't want to focus on this big ethereal goal that we have when I'm performing, okay? Now, strategy-wise, okay, I'm going to revisit that big goal, right? A lot. I'm going to daydream about it, night dream about it, right? I'm going to be obsessed about this goal. But does that mean I need to be unhappy in the present moment? No, it doesn't. I'm probably going to perform more poorly if I'm not focused and positive and enthusiastic and dialed in the present moment, right? So these two elements of psychology, gratitude and goal orientation, are a balance, right? We need to perpetually be grateful and we need to perpetually be blissfully dissatisfied at the same time. And that's a hard balance to reach, right? Now, the third pillar is mindfulness, right? We want to feel at peace with our thoughts, right? Now, that doesn't mean that we have a relationship with ourselves where it's like if I think one thing negative, I feel bad about myself. No. I said relationship with your thoughts, right? If you have a relationship with your thoughts, right, that is, man, I strive to think like this throughout the day, and then you don't think like this, right? Then you're in the gap again, right? The gap of disappointment. So think about it like this. What if I'm unaffected by any thought that I have, right? Because I know that thoughts are part biological production, part, wiring, part experience-based. I don't really have control over any of that. I mean, if I think something negative on my drive to work, or I think something negative before I, while I work throughout the day, or do a sport, or go to the gym, or spend time with my family, do I have full control over every single thought that pops into my mind? No. So the only way to have full control over your thoughts is to not be affected by them, right? Is to realize that good, bad, or indifferent thoughts, they don't affect what I'm experiencing right now, right? This is all the power of now concept, right? If I am, okay, so let's say I think about, oh crap, I forgot to pick up groceries for my family and we're not going to have anything for dinner tonight. Okay, so I have that thought. Now, right now, I'm filming a podcast, right? Okay, so what value does me thinking that thought right now have? None, right? If I think about, something I didn't do this weekend, well, that's in the past. I can't change the past, right? Whatever, okay? Most of the thoughts that we have are not valuable. The thing we're doing right now is what's valuable, right? So the only way that those two thought examples, like let's say I didn't work out one day this weekend and I feel bad about it, or I didn't pick up groceries. Let's look at both of these, right? And I realize it right now. Okay. What makes the thought of me regretting that I didn't work out one day this weekend? What makes that thought productive? Okay. Well, the only thing that would make that thought productive is pulling out my damn phone, pulling out my calendar, and scheduling when I'm going to make up for the workout that I did this weekend. That's option one. Or option two is fully letting go of that thought and telling myself, hey, that's fine. I needed to recover this weekend after multiple weeks of working out hard. Okay? Now, what additional value does that thought bring me to think that thought ever again? None, because I have two actions I can choose from. So now, instead of this being a thought, it's now a choice. How would I like to proceed based on this thought, right? The grocery thing, right? Let's say I forgot to pick up groceries. I'm worried, what are we going to eat for dinner tonight? I didn't pick up groceries, right? Okay. Is that thought valuable? Well, no, it's not valuable right now because I'm filming a podcast and there's nothing I can do about it. But after this podcast ends, and by the way, we did pick up groceries, so this is just a pretend thought. So I'll have to, pretend as though we didn't. Let's say this podcast ends, like it will, and as soon as the podcast ends, I either text my wife, because she's working from home today, to ask if she can order grocery delivery to our house today. Okay, so that's one action. Or the other action is, instead of being worried about, eating tonight grocery food, I can just go to Whole Foods or, a healthy eating spot again and have that delivered to our house for dinner, right? Okay, so now this what if based thought has now created two choice paths. Now I have to make a choice, or I have to completely let go of the thought, right? So thoughts are only productive in so much as they produce an action or a decision, right? And if they don't produce an action or a decision, then they must be fully discarded, right? So the key is the detachment to your thoughts, is to understand that, hey, these thoughts sometimes are going to be unproductive. They're not going to be perfectly controllable, but the thing I can control is my reaction and my response to them and my hands-off nature to them so that they never affect me, right? Now, we must know the art of assigning different weights to different thoughts, right? So if I have a recurring negative thought, right, and I have a recurring positive thought, obviously it makes more sense for me to put more energy towards the positive thought if I want to feel good, right? But what we do is we often put equal weight towards every thought that we have. We think every thought is equally as important, right? So this discernment, this distinguishment between what are productive thoughts and what are unproductive thoughts is a key to happiness, right? So my question is, how do you merge all of this into a bulletproof method for feeling good so you can perform well, right? Well, the quality of your life will come down to the quality of your routines, right? If you don't have routines to make these things insurance policies, then it's going to be way harder to feel good, right? Okay, so let me bring you through my morning routine that I did this morning. Okay, so let's go through it. Woke up 5 a.m. I smiled. I took a deep breath. This is actually part of my routine. I smiled. Took a deep breath. Put on my workout clothes. That's step one. Check. I drank a liter of water, electrolytes, and a hydrogen tablet. Then I had a cold brew, and then I left for the gym at 5:20 a.m. Then I did my cardio, hour-long Zone 3 cardio routine today at 5:30 a.m. A little bit of stretching afterwards, so I got back to the house by 7 a.m., meditated for 12 minutes. Now, meditation is my insurance policy for having a detached relationship with my thoughts. Then I wrote down 5 things I'm grateful for and five of my top goals in life and business, right? Then I said my purpose statement out loud, my life purpose statement, right? What does that do? Well, that ensures I'm detached from my thoughts, which is a keystone to feeling good, right? That ensures that I'm embracing gratitude and I'm embracing goal orientation, right? Now, why did I drink water, electrolytes, and hydrogen this morning, an entire liter of it as soon as I woke up? Well, because like I said, your hydration, your electrolytes, right? And anything you can do to hydrate yourself as quickly as possible is something you want to have an insurance policy around, right? After that, I took all my vitamins. I have like 12 different vitamins and minerals that I take every morning. That's supplementation, right? Then I cooked, my wife and I cooked eggs. So I had 3 farm-raised eggs. I had a half of an avocado to put healthy fats in my brain for mental performance. And the little sprouts and spinach that we put, greens that we put in to the omelet, right? So that gave me protein. That gave me good healthy fats, right? In addition to my supplementation, and some really good free radical fighting greens that I put in the omelet, right? So I have nourished my mind through my meditation, goal setting, and gratitude ritual, right? I've nourished my body with my hydration, supplementation, and a really high quality whole food based breakfast, right? And I've introduced a lot of oxygen into my body by practicing deep breathing within the first 5 minutes of me waking up, right? So imagine not just doing this one morning, but imagine doing this every single morning in a week. Imagine doing this every single morning in a year. Imagine doing this every single morning for 10 years in a row, right? You build yourself with what I call an energy fortress, right? Now you have so many things helping you perform at a biologically sound level and at a psychologically sound level, right? So it's really hard to have bad days when you're giving your body this many chances to feel good, right? So I think what's really difficult for some people who want to achieve success in their lives is we tend to think that it's like some new, strategy that's going to make us successful, right? Some new method, right? So if I want to make more money, it's like, oh, I got to learn how to trade, Bitcoin or something, or I got to figure out real estate, or I have to figure out, I don't know, this new thing that I don't know anything about, or I got to be more productive. But oftentimes we don't actually ask ourselves, am I giving myself the chance to even feel productive? Let's say I do all this stuff and I neglect my biological needs and my psychological needs to feel good, right? Does any amount of strategy fix that? I mean, it can temporarily. I mean, there are overweight people who are successful, but what you're often going to see is that, it's not just overweight. It's also there's also people who aren't overweight that are successful that are extremely unhealthy and like not putting on weight and like, have eating disorders, et cetera, et cetera. The bottom line is this, is what are you optimizing for? Are you optimizing for external success? Are you optimizing for internal success? Or are you optimizing for both? And what I'm trying to say is that if you can create a fortress of internal success, of you feeling good, as frequently as humanly possible, if you can create a fortress like that, then it is way easier to be productive. It's way easier to focus on the right things. It's easier to read productive books. It's easier to say no to distractions, right? It's easier to not open your phone and scroll through social media because you have more will power, right? Oftentimes people say if it's important to you, do it early in the morning, right? Because the things that require the most willpower, you have the most willpower reserves early in the morning, which I believe that's really just glycogen, right? Which is just like energy potential in the body, right? Yeah, we have more glycogen reserves in the morning, right? But do I want to make excuses that I can't do hard things or healthy things later in the day because I don't have the willpower to? Or would I rather just create an environment where I have perpetual willpower? I have willpower in the morning. I have willpower during the day. I have willpower at night, right? And speaking of day and night, these routines are equally as important, right? Like understanding the things that give you energy throughout your day. And most importantly, the way you manage your schedule, right? Some people work really good on tight, regimented schedules. Other people work much better with open calendars, right? So they can work on creative projects as they feel the urge to dive into things, right? Understanding your scheduling style, right? There tactically throughout the day, I think that one of the top things that robs yourself of energy is either A, spending time on things that don't fulfill you, or B, overscheduling or underscheduling yourself, right? And that's like the way you work, right? The way you work has huge ties to your levels of happiness and fulfillment, right? And your evening ritual, right? Little tiny hacks that you can make during your night to make sure that you're, sleeping in the right temperature. 66 degrees has been proven time and time again as the best temperature to sleep in. Not watching blue light, not letting your eyes be infiltrated with blue light perpetually minutes before you go to bed, All of these little tiny hacks make it way easier for you to optimize your sleep, right? But the most important measurement of sleep, okay, is the time that you go to sleep, right? Because oftentimes, if you want to crush your morning routine and still get enough sleep, you're probably gonna have to wake up earlier, right? And if you want to wake up earlier and not feel like crap, then you have to go to bed earlier, right? So the actual secret becomes how do you unwind earlier during the night? Because if you unwind, I call it my unwind ritual, right? How do I get into a ritual of feeling unwound before I go to bed, right? And that's going to come down to, eliminating blue light, being in the right temperature, doing non-mentally taxing things before bed that don't stimulate you, right? Like watching a mindless TV show is one of the best lost arts of the world in terms of sleep optimization. It's just watching something that, doesn't require much brain waves from you, but also being aware of the blue light impact of that, maybe wearing blue light glasses, etc. All of these little tiny hacks, right? They end up becoming a chain of habits, right? Over time that make it really hard to not feel good. So, you're not going to build all this overnight. And if you try to, you're going to freak yourself out, right? So if you don't have all these little micro routines, or some of you have way more routines than me, right? So don't let me slow you down. My invitation, regardless of where you're currently at, if you feel like, man, if I could just do what half of Bill said, I'd be in a way better place. Or some of you are thinking, oh, I'm doing way more than Bill is. He doesn't know crap about this, right? Whatever, I don't care. Regardless, what is the next positive routine that you're going to embed into your schedule? Of everything that I just said, what's the next positive routine you're going to embed, right? And then just stay consistent with that for 1 week. And then add in a second routine for another week, and a third in another week. And in 52 weeks, in 1 year, you could have literally a chain, an armor of habits that will create insurance policies both on the biological and psychological side as it pertains to happiness. In order to perform at your highest, you must feel good. And feeling good is so much easier to control than anything external, right? So you might as well control feeling good so that you can control or get closer to controlling the results that you want out of your life, your business, your health, your family. All right, I hope you got value out of this one. Feel good if you want to perform like a champion. I'll see you in the next one. If you found value in this podcast, here's one way I can help your firm right now. First, you can get our new book, Law Firm Growth Accelerator. It's everything we've learned over 10 plus years helping lawyers build thriving, profitable firms. The strategies that you'll get in this book work for any practice area and any revenue level. You can get the audiobook and ebook 100% free, or just cover the shipping and we'll send you the physical copy to you in addition to the audio and ebook. Go to smbteam.com/book to get your copy.